most unhealthy countries in Europe. We're one of the most unhealthy countries in the world. It's the first generation, along with many of your countries, where this generation is the first generation expected, the children of today are expected to live a shorter life than their parents. Now, I don't know if we've got the little graphic. We did a little question with you guys earlier. I said, how long do you think you guys are going to live? Okay? And that little graphic might come up here. I can tell you, you're all dreaming. You're all dreaming. I can categorically say you're all wrong. I hope the statistics are right. You all think that you're going to live over 100, 90 to 100, 80 to 90. Look at the skew, yeah. The actual reality, and if you want to find out about reality, talk to any insurance company, right? The reality is you're all dying before you're 70. Probably, you know, the new diseases, and the statistic of this is the first generation expected for our children to live a shorter life than our parents is under 60. Right? So let's recalibrate here. So the UK is not very healthy. I've worked a lot in Australia and America as well. And I want to kind of, I just want you to think for 1 second, right? I want you to go back to your country. If it helps to close your eyes, zen out, close your eyes. Think of your country, think of your home, think of your family, think of, hopefully, the table or however you sit down to eat. Think of the meal that represents your country. And think about mum and dad and the laughter and joy and eating that food. What is that food? Tell me, what is that food you're eating? How proud are you of that food? You're proud, yeah? Okay. So, before I get on to the serious stuff, the important thing to learn about food, for me, is joy, happiness, nourishment. It's also an excuse to gather people. You know, whatever religion you're in, you know, the table, food to eat is the altar of any home. And, you know, it brings people together. And, you know, we've got to remember that, because I'm going to give you some pretty miserable information now. Okay, so the biggest killer on the planet at the moment, or certainly one of the biggest killers, is diet-related disease. And the most disgusting thing about it is it's preventable, man-made. We don't have to die from this. The problem in my world, and maybe today I can inspire some of you to care and want to get involved in some of the stuff that I'm doing, but in my world, diet-related disease is not dramatic. It's not cool. It's not a great screen grab. It's not great on CNN. You know, the amount of people killed by diet-related disease is way more than, say, gun crime in the UK or America and many, many other countries. Okay? This is the first time when adults are handing back a country to you young people in a worse state than when they got it. Sorry about that. You've got a lot to do. But it doesn't mean you should sit back and do nothing. We've got a lot to do. We have to start a food revolution. So I'm going to talk about three main issues today. I'm going to talk about obesity and diet-related disease. I'm going to talk about nutrition transition, which is a sort of scientific term. I'll explain that later. And then I'm going to talk about education. And then we might have a little chat about maybe what we could do together. So, we've got a beautiful mix of you guys in the audience today, from many, many different countries. Obesity is, certainly in the last 20 years, has gone, well, obesity and diet-related disease has gone crazy. It's out of control. And it's not just affecting the Western world, it's rampaging through all the developing world as well. So it's very, very relevant to many, many people here. It's pretty, I think it's, you know, I've gone from being angry and slagging off certain people and companies, and I've had my 5, 6, 7 years of that, and I'm trying to be mature now and think about reality and change and control my anger. I think it's fair to say that Western-style diets are fairly responsible for this. Bad feeding, as the scientists call it. It's massive new injection of highly processed foods, salt, sugar, fat, in everything. The problem that we've got is we've actually got in America 3 generations, possibly 4, certainly in England 3, and probably the larger percentage of your countries, 2 to 3 generations of people that think this food is normal. Normal. Okay? They don't know the difference. You know, the problem is that governments around the world, they love cheap food. Of course they do. We get that, yeah? We love cheap food, and they like the shelves full. But most governments around the world, if not all of them, don't have any food experts or at the heart of government. And we're paying for it now. The funny thing as well is, it's not funny at all, is that us consumers, the public, we're paying for this. We're paying for this. So, 2 of the top 5 causes of early premature death on this planet are diet-related. 2 of the top 5. Right, so that goes back to your graph, and you guys have got to get all of your happiness down to the age of 60 or 70, because that's pretty much where we're at. Medical costs. Humongous. Now, I know all of your countries have different medical situations and setups, but ultimately it all comes down to money at the end of the day. I want to talk about the United States. I've been doing campaigns in there just recently, and there's reasons for that. And I think, just so you know, I've got that as a reference point. I think many countries from sort of capitalist countries or consumerism or whatever, a lot of that sort of certainly began and started in the States. They're a little bit more advanced than most countries. Certainly, I look to America as our future from a health and cost statistic. England's right up there. So let me just quote some sort of costs. So let's just forget emotion and death. Let's just think about cost and money, because this is important when we're talking about businesses and governments. If you're obese, medical costs are 42%, nearly 50% more expensive than a regular person. Now that probably doesn't surprise you, but when most of your population is getting that way, we have a massive amount of money being spent sort of trying to fix people when it's too late. It costs the American government, just think about this in cash, it's lots of numbers. It costs the American government $90 billion a year in obesity alone. That's $10 million an hour. Right? And in the next 20 years, it's set to go to $139 billion. We're talking countries' national GDP here for some people. We're talking about big money. Think what we could do with that money. When I was in America, I think, and again, just to sort of finish off that sort of American reference, it's, I was based in LA for nearly 2-3 months, campaigning pretty much singly against the head of the superintendent of the school district. Shouldn't have been in the job, wasn't up to it, and was 15 years out of date, and luckily I got him fired, which is great. And learn this about government, guys. When we started scratching around the side and meeting other people in government and all sorts of other people that I can't mention, they all wanted him gone as well. So it's ridiculous. They had this kind of stagnant character that was stopping productivity and new things happening. Anyway, to move on from that, I was working in poor communities in LA, and people think of LA as fit, buff, rich, beautiful, and it is in many ways, but it's lesser so than the reality of LA, which is a lot of poverty, hardship, and in view of the Hollywood sign was food deserts. Food deserts, no fresh food available. Fast food on every corner, right, but no fresh food. For a poor family that had the common sense to not buy the crap, right, and watch their children get ill, like every other child. We're talking, by the way, we're talking about school districts which have 80% obesity. 80. 8 out of 10 kids. It would take them 4 hours to get on a bus and get fresh food. So, I think what we're talking about as well is environment. The environment in which you live in is shaping your health. It's just not just about bad decisions and bad choices and about you being greedy. It's about your environment. And that's something that we need to control. So where do I go next? under 5 children, this is a new statistic that's quite interesting. And it sort of contrasts the American reference, okay? Because let's put it up there, if we've got the graph. It's really important that you guys know it's just not America. If you look at the graph of under 5 diabetes, right, look where America is smack bang in the middle, pretty much, next to Brazil. Above it is Brazil, Australia, Jordan, Jamaica, Uruguay, Peru, you know, the list continues. Look at the graph. This is under 5-year-olds. This is babies, guys. I have a 5-year-old, okay? Obviously, this is a new statistic, so we can get rid of that now. But the point is, guys, is that junk food, and certainly sugar, and high fructose corn syrup, is massively involved in this. You can't, no scientist in the world can debate this at all. So, I mean, I think the thing to remember, I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, I'm 35. When I was a kid, living in that little village, I loved a can of Coke, and I'm sure many of you do. You know, on someone's birthday, we used to go to McDonald's. And we'd get in a boat, and we'd wear a hat. And we'd have a nice little happy meal, yay, woo! And we'd go swimming afterwards, it was great. But the thing that's changed, you know, is that these foods aren't treats anymore. They're becoming part of our diet. I've worked in so many communities in England, Australia and America where these are not treats, these are dinner. Breakfast, lunch, and forget water, by the way, guys. I've seen so many families that only hydrate on sugary drinks. What happens is, they die young. End of story. So, I want you to sort of feel some of my pain here, right? If you want, look, you're all bright people, you know, to want to make change in food and the landscape and the soil and handling water and farming, I don't have to ask you if you want that, because anyone with half a brain would want that, because they want to get on with life and do other things and just enjoy it. But, you know, the reality is diet-related disease and all the junk food and crap and farming issues that go with it is very boring to the public. A lot of my expression to the public is hampered by mega facts, mega statistics, science reviews, and how can a normal person in any of your countries think, I'll do that instead. Or, I'll go that direction. So a lot of my job is challenged by trying to make a simple point to the public to make them really, really fucking angry. Okay? And that's the important thing. Now, it's really hard. It's really hard. The other thing is, guys, you know, we can't just blame any one person. It's a whole load of minutiae. It's a whole load of different little things. And governments, by the way, hate that. Because governments like single answers. And I've worked for 7 years with 3 governments. And they love simple things. What's the one thing that we can do? Nothing. What's the one thing we can do? Nothing. Give me nothing. So I have to tell the story to the public. You can see this crap and sugar and all that sort of stuff infiltrating towns, cities, villages. First and third world countries. It's happening already, right? So I had to make a point in Los Angeles, and I guess I'm showing you this because if you're going to do this, I need you to be creative and kind of get people to care in the same way. So everyone in LA, everyone when I first got there for the first 2 months, did not care about flavoured milk. Now, let's just put it in perspective. In LA, they serve 800,000 meals a day to children. Most of those are free school meals because they're poor. Okay? Now, most of those have a breakfast and a lunch. Now, to get the money from the government to pay for the free school meal, they've got to have a milk. Now, flavoured milk, chocolate milk, strawberry milk, right? There's more milk per 100 grams in a flavoured milk than a can of Coke. Sorry, there's more sugar in 100 ml. There's more sugar in 100 mils of milk than a can of Coke. You get me? Are you with me? Now, I don't know about you, but I grew up with white milk. And it was fine for me. But the point is, and this is the real point, 4-year-old. Who's got a 4-year-old in the room here? Put your hand up. Or